Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Hope you like our snappy new set. Well, in a campaign that has had many remarkable weeks, this past week was one of the more remarkable ones. Let's try to get some insight into what exactly went on and where we go from here with two sharp political analysts joining me this week. Charlie Manning on the right of your screen and Joanna Weiss, both the political analysts familiar to regular viewers. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here. Okay, so Donald Trump goes down to Mexico, meets with the president, sounds calm, measured, rational, talks about mutually achievable goals. He's got 5 points he reads out. He references the interests of the hemisphere. He looks presidential. Hours later, he's on stage Wednesday night, excuse me. Same night. He's on stage in Phoenix, bellowing out red meat on immigration. And the Mexican president is claiming Trump lied in their joint press conference about whether they discussed the financing of the famous wall. So let's start with you, Joanna. How on earth is this supposed to reassure skeptical voters about Trump's stability and reliability?
Well, first, I take a little issue with the idea that he looked presidential. Our standards have lowered clearly for Donald Trump. Standing for an hour and not ranting and being generally a respectable and respectful person makes you a human being over the age of 4. It doesn't make you a statesman. So I feel like there's this media drive to boost up, to think every turn he's pivoting, he's acting presidential. I think the speech that he gave on Wednesday night confirmed who Donald Trump is and who he's going after. He is a guy who goes for red meat. He's a guy full of trigger language. He's a fearmonger. The fact that he's fearmongering while reading off a teleprompter doesn't make him any less of a fearmonger.
Okay, but what I don't get, maybe you can explain the strategy here, Charlie. Clearly, the Trump campaign's been trying to lower his negatives, broaden his appeal. If not to Latinos and African Americans, then certainly by using conciliatory language about them, by looking allegedly presidential in Mexico, to other voters who've been alarmed by his tone. How did he advance the ball in those regards?
I thought by going to Mexico, jumping on that invitation. My understanding is both campaigns were invited to meet with the president of Mexico. The Clinton people never even got back. Trump jumps on his plane, flies down there, has a major meeting with the president of Mexico. And I disagree with Joanna. I thought he was terrific in the press conference. He took it over. In fact, one of the questions he was asked is, did paying for the wall come up? He said, it came up, but we really didn't discuss it. 5 feet away is the president of Mexico. He could have said at that time, sure, we did, and I told him we're not paying for it. Instead, he sends out a tweet 2 hours after Trump has left the country.
Right, but what about the Jekyll and Hyde act with the going back to the red meat later that night? What is the casual, undecided voter supposed to make of that?
Well, I think the place they did the speech probably wasn't conducive to a 10-point major policy speech on what he would do if he's elected president on illegal immigration, because you have the crowd roaring and it's a big room and he's talking. I probably would have put him in a different venue, but overall, I've reread the speech. I thought it was a great speech.
Go ahead, Joanna.
If you're a moderate Republican, if you're a Latino voter, if you're a moderate Republican who understands that to win, the Republican Party needs to win over Latino voters, you don't listen to that speech and hear anything but the same, borderline racist, fear-mongering language. They're coming over the border to get us. They're all criminals. He didn't say the words, they're rapists and murderers, but he all but did. That trigger language was embedded in that speech.
In fact, he introduced the families of victims of illegal immigrants, including the family of Matthew Denise, who we know the terrible story, was murdered, was killed by a drunk driving illegal immigrant here in Massachusetts, in Milford. And I thought that added a really nice point to the whole event, to have those families there and be able to tell their stories.
I guess emotional. They're terrible stories, but statistics actually show as immigration goes up, crime's been going down. This is
well, crime's been going down everywhere because of good policing, but now we don't know. Right. We see crime going up all over the country because you have the Democrats and everyone attacking our police.
All right, if we're going to talk about Hillary Clinton, we're going to have to take our break right now, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Democratic nominee and how she's doing, maybe a word about the third party candidates. So stay with us. Welcome back. We're in a civil, if argumentative matter, discussing the presidential race here this morning with Joanna Weiss and Charlie Manning. Okay, so the saga of Hillary Clinton's emails and her family's handling of the Clinton Foundation just continues, drip, drip, drip. The latest, we learned that Secretary Clinton was sending email, which was later deemed classified, from her private email server months after leaving office. And then we also learned that Bill Clinton was using funds that are set aside to support former presidents in their work, diverting it to the Clinton Foundation, not illegally, but in a manner that we haven't seen before. So, again, let me start with you, Joanna. It feels like she can't get out of her own way on this stuff. And as a result, the campaign's kind of hiding her out.
Yeah, no, the breadth of the Clinton self-inflicted wounds is just astounding. You know, it was no secret to anyone that she was eventually going to run for president. So the idea that she didn't sort of put systems in place to distance herself from the Clinton Foundation, that this wouldn't come up, that all of these kind of side dealings and, you know, the friendships that maybe look a little bit shady.
There have been stories about it for years.
Oh, it goes on, and there are many simple ways to cut ties that she never did. No, she's the luckiest person in the world right now in that she is running against Donald Trump because he diverts all the attention from all of this.
Wouldn't just about any other Republican be up by 10 points, Charlie?
I think Trump's going to beat her anyway. You saw her numbers just crashing this week. She came actually out of her convention, you know, up there, some trust numbers. Even women voters don't like her and don't trust her anymore. So these trust numbers are really important. Now, the Clinton people go around saying, look, we elected Bill twice when everybody knew he was a liar and a cheater. So that doesn't matter. We can fool the American people again and get them to vote for Hillary, even though nobody trusts her.
Very briefly.
No, it's a challenge, and that was personal life stuff, and this is professional life stuff. So it hurts her. It's damaging to her, for sure.
All right, I think on that we all agree. Listen, I promised a quick mention of the third-party candidates. As viewers know, a few weeks back, we had Jill Stein in here for a one-on-one interview. Next week at this time, former Governor Bill Weld will join us. That's all our time. Thank you, Charlie, Joanna. Thanks for joining us. Right now, it's back to my colleagues for more WBZ News.